Don't ask me.
I'm sorry. Whomever you're pulling for,
That
you're
sounds right.
likely either throwing or attending a Super Bowl party. And if you are and are responsible for bringing a dish, or if you're throwing a party and responsible for providing a number of dishes, you will want to tune into this segment because we are bringing to you Chef Christopher Douglas. Chris joins us from the studio. He's actually in studio, which is pretty cool. And he is a chef up in the Bay Area. And I've known Chris for more than 20 years. He is a phenomenal cook. He's one of those people that post a lot of food porn on his Facebook page whenever he's out and about. You know,
I just wonder if Chris is saying, okay, why did I agree to come? Why am I here?
Right. Chris, welcome to the program. This is the first. I've never had you on the show before.
No, thank you. This is great.
So,
although I almost missed it because I couldn't get out of your house this morning.
Chris
You were trapped.
Chris and his girlfriend Michelle are staying at Casa Teodosio, and the problem is getting out of our garage is kind of a trick if you don't know the combo to open it, and then our gate to get into the other portion of the house has a lock on it.
So are you trying to keep people out or in? I'm confused.
We don't have a lot of friends, Patty, and so when they come to the house, we don't, we have to keep them there.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But Chris was really nice last night to fry us up some crab cakes, which is the one thing that does come from the Baltimore area that is pretty delicious. But you put a West Coast spin on it.
Yeah, I Dungeness crab. It's local. Sweeter, wonderful. So of course we use that. And
what do they typically use in Baltimore? Blue or something?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, and typically they put Ritz or not Ritz, but crackers in as a binder. And
Okay.
I try to make a crab cake that really is really crab. I try to.
It's not all
More crab, less filler.
Yeah, less filler, more crab. A little bit of red pepper, maybe a little celery, but very fine, some chive, and then basically a little lemon zest, and let the crab kind of
speak for itself.
Exactly.
We're showing a picture of the finished product from last night's crab cakes that were just delicious. They were so good. But let's walk through the steps for people, starting with the ingredients. You already mentioned the red pepper. It looks like you roasted the one you have here.
Yeah, I did use a roasted pepper that was in the picture. However, just a red bell is fine. I do that, but you can certainly sub really anything to your liking. I love a little celery. I like to take the celery leaf and chop a little of that up.
That has a lot of flavor in the celery leaf.
It's great. It adds a nice little brightness as well.
And then there's parsley here. Is that Italian parsley? Or
it's Italian flat leaf parsley.
Does it matter if you use a Meyer lemon or just a standard lemon?
No, you can use Meyer's regular lemon. I like to zest it and then throw that zest in and then squeeze, the juice. Of lemon.
So you don't. So I didn't have a zester at home last night.
So what did you improvise? What did you do?
A cheese grater with the
Okay.
tiny grain, the tiny one.
The smallest
right.
option.
And so we zested 2 lemons and then used the juice of both because they weren't super juicy lemons, but your recipe calls for the juice of one if you have a nice juicy lemon.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to you. Obviously, some are juicier than
Right.
others. You can kind of taste.
Yeah.
You just kind of want to taste a little lemon, a little brightness, some acidity, if you will.
And to zest the lemon, you're just really taking off that bright yellow layer.
Exactly. If you get down into the pith, into the what, it gets a little bitter. And I mean, I don't think you'll really taste it after the crab and everything else that goes into it. So, it's best not to get into the pith.
So, Chris, we're showing a shot now of you adding a yellowish mayonnaise to the mixture. That's aioli, which is basically garlic mayonnaise, right?
Yeah, I do put a little aioli. You can definitely use regular mayonnaise. I think that's actually Dijon because I do put Dijon in a couple tablespoons per pound.
And once again, last night we didn't have Dijon at the house, surprisingly. We just had a yellow mustard, which worked as well.
That is surprising.
And Chris, you're a big fan of improvising, not sticking so close to the recipe that you get all bound up about it, right?
Well, I think recipes are guidelines. I think they're there to reference, and I encourage people to use what they have and don't get so focused on, oh my God, I don't have that, and what do I do now? I can't do this. It's a little different with baking and pastry.
It's a science.
That's a little more exact.
It's more science, but savory cooking is really, go for it. I once heard, there's no such thing as a bad recipe, only a new creation.
There you
I
go.
like that. I like that.
In
In fact,
sometimes though, it could be pretty bad, but you might as well try.
a good
Exactly.
example is Chris's recipe for Irish coffee calls for 1 jigger of scotch, and I'm pretty sure there's 2 or 3 in here.
I shouldn't have made those today.
Just an example of how you can improvise.
I'm glad you're still with us, Patty.
We are too.
Falling off the chair over here.
So you blend up all this crab meat, which, by the way, we did not buy a crab and then deshell it or whatever you would call it, pull all the meat out. At Costco, you can get lump crab,
Like prepared already, ready to go.
It was from Vietnam. I would prefer to use some Dungeness
better choice.
crab or something, right?
Right.
But
They
it
were
was,
in a pinch there.
and the people listening,
And Chris is all
know,
about
there you go.
improvising.
people listening right now will, just by the nature of the time and when the game starts, would find themselves in a pinch. So if you want to
Right.
put these
Yeah,
together,
probably.
you can swing by Costco and get it at a pretty good price.
Do you get a lot of Dungeness crab down here?
I'm
You know,
shy to say I don't know.
I don't know for sure, but I feel like that's not something we have a lot of because it's not sticking out for me. So
Okay.
I know the farther north you go, it's
Yeah.
going to be something you see more of during
It's a
that
Bay
season.
Area
It is.
Thing
North of Monterey, I think.
I think so,
Right.
right?
All the way up.
Monterey Bay North. And so, all right, so you take this mixture and you form it into patties, and what you call for in the recipe, but people could use any sort of really breadcrumbs they want, or even go gluten-free, but you use something called panko or
Panko,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
just a Japanese
Yeah.
breadcrumb. Certainly, hey, if you have bread at home, it's a great way to, use leftover bread. Go ahead and toast a little bit, make some breadcrumbs and add it in. I like to just kind of scant add, if you will, to the mixture, and just to see where it's going to start forming, and I don't like to work the crab too much. I like to have a little, big
Chunks in
lump
there.
or a chunk here and there.
A little
and-
texture.
because you're going to put a little panko, I do at least on the outside, and when you do that, it'll kind of help bind it even better. So it's really, it's nice and crispy, and then it's just really crab, and
Yeah.
squeeze a little lemon on top, or serve it with a lemon aioli, or you can, some blood orange segments right now. Citrus is in season.
Oh yeah,
That
that's a
sounds
good
good.
idea.
Nice little crust salad, or
So
whatever.
then we took a griddle that we used to make pancakes that was kind of bowed, so it made it difficult.
That was a little warped.
It was a little warped, but threw some olive oil on the pan, and that's what we used to then fry these up.
That sounds good.
And you do it till they're that nice golden, but you did not have the heat too high.
Well, for one, I just started kind of easy. I didn't quite know your kitchen or the heat, or the pan was a little warped. So,
Right.
And if you
I
go too
suggest-
far, it's hard to go back. So, you
Just
know,
kind of still adjusting it. But,
Good point, Patty.
once you burn it.
right. You have cranked. Actually, what will happen is those, because they're really delicate, light breadcrumbs. They will brown and get dark before it even starts to kind of warm through the
Right.
crab cake. So I would suggest starting, a nice low heat and take your time.
Yeah,
'cause,
be conservative.
And
Yeah.
you served it with
Exactly.
a peanut sauce that you threw together.
Well, that's what was in your fridge. So
Ah,
I was like, okay,
improvise.
if you want this, go ahead and
it's a peanut dressing from Trader Joe's.
this.
And you mixed the peanut dressing from
Wow.
Trader Joe's with what?
I don't know. You had some hot sauce in there, I think, and a little lime and
Sounds
maybe
good.
Some parsley I put in it.
Yeah, that's why. Now
That's
you
what
know.
he's talking about. New recipe, right?
Well, now you know why we made it so difficult for him to get out of the house. Because we
We are not leaving.
we want more of that in the
Yeah.
future for sure. Okay, so that satisfies our Baltimore culinary dish that you
Right.
could bring, but with a West Coast sensibility to it, and so which that way you're sort of making both teams happy. You've got
if you have Ravens
I mean, I
fans
think
coming
in
over,
Baltimore, you got to think of crab cakes. I
Yes.
wish I was a little more familiar. I know, Maryland has wonderful farms and dairies, and they do great artisan cheese, and
right?
stuff like that.
yeah.
But
Maryland crab cakes, kinda.
right.
It's the go-to.
We have two more dishes that we are going to get to. One is the Muffuletta sandwich
Oh.
from
Yum.
Nolans, right? Once again, Chris, does a little twist on it.
And Gabe Saglia from Travel Zoo earlier was talking about how many people will be inspired to go to New Orleans because of all of the fanfare surrounding the Super Bowl. The sandwiches sold me.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go just for this sandwich.
Can
the
you
Muffuletta. I can
show a shot of that, Patty?
Yep.
Hold on one second. I have to I have to get it with it's going to be our double cam here. And, okay, so you see the studio shot if you're watching online right now, you'll see the studio shot on the left and the Muffulettas on the right. These are not for the
Weak
health
of heart?
conscious.
Well, I don't think of Super Bowl as being the day to eat healthy.
No, nor do I.
Right. This is the one-time splurge.
Exactly. And Chris will go over the recipe, which, by the way, every recipe that Chris is talking about thus far, the crab cakes and the muffuletta, are available at eatdrinkexplore.com. Just click on our recipe section. Very easy to find. And Chris is very loose about the recipe and encourages you to, think
give
for
you
yourself.
a guideline.
Yeah, a little guideline there. And then
Maybe too loose. I don't know.
And then finally, what we'll finish the whole half hour up with is a chili served in sourdough bread bowls.
You can.
Uh-huh.
I have to have chili at a Super Bowl. It's just for me. I love chili. Certainly, Cioppino, being from San Francisco, might have been a better dish. But we decided to use Anchor Steam beer.
Aha!
Ooh,
Into the
yum.
mix. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. We're back with more recipe tips for your Super Bowl party in just a moment. It's crunch time. 9:49 the time. Literally crunch time. Sandwich crunch. Muffuletta. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Muffuletta.
Muffuletta sandwich, which is a mainstay, I guess, of the Nolans culinary scene. And we have a recipe for you to throw some of these up, turn it into finger food or that sort of thing for your Super Bowl party. Chef Chris Douglas from the San Francisco Bay Area joins us right now with his take on the muffuletta. Chris, so this is really packed full of traditional sort of cured meats.
Yeah, mortadella, salami, ham. People put pepperoni in it sometimes.
Ooh,
yeah, it's a hearty sandwich.
Layer upon layer.
Yeah, lots of layers.
Lots of layers.
And
there's an olive salad that really, I think, makes the sandwich,
Yeah, and what that really is sort of the twist on this sandwich, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Lots of olives, carrots, cauliflower. There's some bright acidity, the slight pickle. There's parsley, a little oregano.
Is it spicy?
This is not spicy. I made this one. There's some pepperoncini in it, so sometimes that gives a little kick.
Yeah.
For sure.
Now,
But
do
no,
you
like red peppers.
Do
or
you
anything.
toast the bread, Chris?
Traditionally, no, it's not toasted.
Okay.
It was invented actually Central Grocery, I believe, in New Orleans, and it's an Italian sandwich.
Yeah.
Traditionally made on a sesame seed, sort of hearty Italian round loaf. And
You
really
need to have
it's-
some sturdy bread, I would imagine,
Yeah,
to hold
you need
all that.
The idea is that you make it ahead of time and you really let that olive salad sort of marry into the bread. Let the bread sort of soak it up. And,
Okay.
so it is a sandwich that's really meant to be made ahead of time.
Right.
And you can even weigh it a little bit, press it in. I toasted the bread today because I had some bread that, quite frankly, I needed a little light.
Wasn't sturdy. It wasn't sturdy enough.
Well, it was sturdy.
getting
It
old.
was just too
A day old. or
I had
whatever.
a couple days longer than maybe I
Right.
should have, so I just threw a little toast on it.
Patty,
and
why don't
it's
you grab
fine,
one of those and taste it?
Oh, please. Do I have to?
I mean, this is
Yeah.
talk about like a
So-
food tailor-made for Patty Pyburn.
Don't mind if I do.
We are looking at it right now, and Patty is sampling one of the muffuletta. Chris, what he did is they're big rounds, and
Wow.
he cut it into 4. So like you would a pizza or something, and so you get your own little pie wedge of muffuletta. Perfect, I think, perfect size for serving at a party. And so, what do you think? there?
Yum.
Yeah.
they really should be
Delicious.
super wet with olive oil and the again
Sloppy.
olives. Yeah, very
so
sloppy.
when are we
and
making
these are,
reservations for
could
New
use a little
Orleans?
more of that.
When are we going?
Yes, I don't know.
This is awesome.
When it becomes more affordable, we're not going today. Everyone is being fleeced out of every last
know.
penny that is in New Orleans
Every
right
single
now.
hotel room's taken. And
Bless you for helping that city, regain its
Anthony?
traction, but
Are you envious right now because I'm eating?
our Anthony, who runs the audio board on this show, unfortunately is gluten intolerant, and so you could eat the inside out. I
Right.
guess
You
of the
could,
sandwich, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so let's move on from the muffuletta now to the final
Do we
recipe.
have to?
I know, I'm sorry. The final recipe that Chris is sharing, and this one is made with a San Francisco staple.
Well, obviously San Francisco, you think of cioppino, and, while cioppino is incredible and wonderful, I just thought it would be, I like chili. Super Bowl is kind of about wings and chili and, chips and nachos, and it's, kind of a day you go for it. So I decided, actually, why don't we it's a little easier to make, than cioppino, or a little less, it's easier, I guess I should say.
Right.
So I decided to use Anchor Steam beer. We'll use, go figure. So we'll use, we'll feature Anchor Steam, and we'll go ahead and make a chili.
Right.
That people can have.
And you did include beans in this chili. Is the meat base beef?
It is. It's beef, ground beef, grass-fed, actually, and then I put some chorizo as well in it.
Chris told me last night that he doesn't think he's ever made the same chili twice. And so, being forced into creating a recipe was a little on the difficult side for him, because he's like, well, I don't know. I use what I have in my kitchen.
I agree.
Whatever's fresh.
That's how I make chili,
chili
too.
is so easy, really. There's no wrong to it, in my opinion. But it was kind of fun to do this, because now I have some reference. If I want to make this particular chili again,
you might be able to recreate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Randall, we have a shot. I don't know if you can see the chili.
And for those watching online, you can see Chris's chili here. It looks very rich and thick. Is there a tomato base to this?
There is. I actually took some dried ancho and pasilla chilies and took the seeds out, toasted it in your saute pan. It kind of just blooms, brings the flavor out, softens it a bit.
Yeah.
Then threw those chilies in with some garlic and then some tomatoes, and then made a puree.
And so you put that in like a food processor or a
blender. I used my home blender, pureed it all up, and then threw that in with some beef stock and the onions. And
you brown the beef as well?
Yeah, beef was browned. And
which gives it, caramelizes it a bit. Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah.
Well, that when you brown the beef, it actually kind of tends to steam a little bit, and release a little of the moisture, but you retain everything.
And then you used pinquito beans, you used pinto beans.
But I should have used pinquito beans. We're down here in the Central Coast, right? A little something.
That's our bean.
I know.
You serve it with tri-tip, and
I really wasn't going to use any beans at all and go more of a Texas chili. But then I'm like, I think everybody really wants a bean in their chili.
Everyone could use a little gas for their day. It looks delicious, Chris.
Thanks.
And we haven't posted the chili recipe yet online, but here's the deal. You could easily find a chili recipe, but the trick for the flavoring of this was the addition of Anchor Steam.
Yeah, Anchor Steam, I used Anchor Porter. You certainly could use really any of the Anchor Steam beers. I think Porter is great. It has a real kind of coffee, chocolate, afternote. It goes great. In fact, this kind of turned out to be almost reminiscent of a little bit of mole. After I was finished with the deep, dark, kind of rich chilies. After and then the Anchor Steam, the Porter, the beef stock. It just had a real kind of, it's almost like, mole, I guess, a mole chili, which I didn't intend. But it's great.
But sometimes that's the best. Unintended consequences are. There's some expression surrounding that term.
It's the Irish coffee.
I was going to say,
right.
Less Irish coffee, you might remember.
Isn't that the case? Well, Chris, 3 great options for people who are considering a dish for today's Super Bowl party. We started the whole half hour off with your crab cakes with a West Coast twist, then the Muffuletta sandwich, which is a tradition right there out of New Orleans, and then tapped it off, I guess you could say, with Anchor Steam infused chili that has sort of a mole taste to it. Chris Douglas, chef from Oakland, California. We're going to try to get him to come back on a regular basis because he always has great tips, and our recipe section can always use a little beefing up. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks for having me.
Patty Pyburn, as always, thank you so much for co-hosting. Anthony Renaro at the audio controls. Cora Adama working the phones, including all the way to Zurich, Switzerland. Hey, go Niners, make it a great Sunday.
You've been listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore radio program. If you missed any of our segments today, look for them online or through our free Apple and Android apps. Catch you back right here next week.